Yep, this one, it's gonna be interesting. Cannibal Holocaust. Potentially the most notorious and most shocking horror movie that exists today. Now, this came out in 1980. It began filming in 1979. And I watched it last night for the first ever time. I watched it on Shudder, so that Shudder has it. Thankfully, they have the full movie, the full, no cuts. It's just a full movie, so that's, respect to Shudder for that. But yeah, man, I just want to say before I actually get into this review that if you're sensitive to certain subjects regarding this movie, I just want to warn you that there will be talks about sensitive things that have happened in this movie, and if you don't know what that is, you could Google it for a rough idea, but like the whole stuff like animal abuse, if you're an animal lover, or sexual abuse, which I'll kind of go into depth, but I'm not going to show any pictures or any clips of the animal abuse, so I don't want to traumatize anyone, I don't want to upset anybody, so I just want to warn you. So if you're sensitive to them subjects, this probably isn't the review for you, so I'll leave that with you. And yeah, let's get straight into it. So Cannibal Holocaust tells the story of five young filmmakers that set off to make a documentary about a tribe, and they want to get to know about the tribes, and and as they travel, they basically go missing. So we see them briefly in the beginning, and there's a news on the TV of a broadcast talking about how these people have not been seen in 2 years, I think, and have gone missing, and there's concern. So then we cut to the next team, which is a guy, well, three fellas, three men set off for a rescue to find these young filmmakers, and this movie is just it's, to put it in a nice term, fucked up. I mean, Jesus Christ, the fucking things that were in this. When I went into this movie, I only knew roughly that, okay, there's a bit of animal abuse, there's this and that. It's only until you actually watch it that you genuinely, it's one of those you have to see it to believe it type of movies. Now this movie, there was a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. You have animals being slaughtered for the movie, and I mean slaughtered, I don't mean pretend, I'm talking about real actual animals being actually killed on camera for this movie. Like, I mean that there's a turtle scene that was brutal as fuck. 2 monkeys died, 1 monkey was killed for a scene. They messed up the scene, so they brought in another monkey for the reshoot, so they had to kill another monkey for that reshoot. And a giant sea turtle. I said 2 monkeys. Spider, snake, you name it. There was a sloth in a scene, And I remember seeing it, and I was like, please don't, not the sloth, not the sloth. Thankfully, they didn't kill the sloth, ironically. And there's a scene with an alligator. When I first saw it, I thought, they're going to kill the alligator. Makes sense. You know, movie like this, showing creature like that, obviously it's going to have something, but thankfully not. You know, that was also spared. So basically, the rescue team find these tribe people, and as the title obviously suggests, they're cannibals, and they slaughter everything, eat it, and you know, it's one of the movies that when it goes in, you're the rescue team, and you're thinking about these five, filmmakers, and you're thinking, you're rooting for the young ones. You hope they're found safe, and and you're hoping the best for them, and they eventually find the remains of these young filmmakers, which all of their carcasses have been like made into like a piece of art or something. It's like fucking all stuck together and shit. So that was brutal. So they realize, okay, well, they're dead, so time to go. And I can't remember the character with the beard and the hat, and he has the gun, the rifle. I liked this character, he was pretty cool. It was just that stereotypical tough guy, and I've got a gun and all that shit. And, we've seen it 100 times, but it was pretty cool. So they leave the island, and I mean, there's some scenes in this that are just bizarre. Like there's the main guy with the mustache, has a great mustache too. Goes out into the sea, butt ass naked, and all these chicks run towards him. All these naked women just run into the sea with him, and they're all pushing him around, and they all run off, and he chases after them. Really weird shit, But yeah, this movie is notorious for the animal abuse. I mean, I was rooting for these young filmmakers that went missing. I was rooting for them because we get to revisit them later when we see their footage, which has been all pasted together and recovered, so we get to see what really happened to them. So I was rooting for them until the turtle scene. That's when I just wanted the worst possible thing to happen to these people. I was like, yeah, fuck these guys, a pack of assholes. How they literally tortured, these animals and ripping apart this turtle alive, like cutting its head off. And I don't really want to get into too much detail, I don't want to upset anybody, but between that and later on, there's like a little piglet which gets shot on screen, and you hear it squeals of pain, and it's just brutal, But yet, ironically, this movie is a cult classic. It does have a cult following. You have people who admire this movie as a piece of art. And I know, we're going to put this, I know that it's easy to look at this movie and think, all animals were abused. And I know they say backstage that when the animals were killed, they were given to the tribe so they could eat, like in reality. So they weren't wasted, like they weren't killing them and throwing them back into the sea or into a ditch. They were eating them. Not that it makes it any better. And I just want to say, before I make a point, I just want to point this out really quickly, that I do not condone any cruelty in any way that was in this movie in terms of animals or even people. But the point I will say is, like, it's like, you imagine a tribe, right? Because there are tribes in the world, even today. I mean, we don't get to see them. It's, how many stories have you heard? There's like an island, and people try and get onto this island and see them, but they end up getting killed before they even get onto the island. Like tourists and stuff. So they do exist, and we just don't see them because they're not well documented. We see pictures of them on the island, but that's about it. So imagining a tribe, right? So let's just say they would kill, say, five adult pigs, big ones, right? Five adult pigs in one day, right? So that would feed them for the whole day, you can imagine, right? That's an example. I mean, it's not that much different to us, is it? Logically, think about it, right? Five adult pigs, right, getting killed one day to feed them. We kill, what, hundreds and hundreds of pigs in one day, and a lot of that meat gets wasted. So it's not that different. Realistically, I know this that'll probably upset some people. And I'm sorry for that. But I'm a realist, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat stuff, you're getting my honest opinion. But having said that, as I've already stated, that does not mean I condone any of the animal abuse that was in this movie. I don't. Honestly, I wish that they got a turtle, a fake turtle that was made out of rubber, and worked with that, rather than a real turtle. I don't condone that at all. No. I found it hard to watch. I looked away at some scenes. So, just because I state that and make that point doesn't mean I condone it. So there's that. And then there's the people. There's a lot of abuse. Like, there's a lot of rape scenes. And the worst one is probably the end, where the girl gets gang raped and then gets beheaded during it. Really brutal scenes. Really, really brutal. And even other scenes, like other young girls that are being dragged on stones and mud, naked, being dragged on, that must hurt. And then a bunch of tribe people all forced to stay under this hut while it's actually on fire. And keep in mind, they didn't get paid for that. None of the tribe extras were paid at all. So they're risking their lives in this burning hut, and they're not getting paid for it. Dangerous stuff. And I mean, there's even a forced abortion scene where there's a girl, she's tied up, and they're taking the fetus out of her, and he runs off and he buries it in mud, and then they stone her to death immediately after. Really brutal stuff, proper brutal. And I mean, yeah, the rape stuff again was hard for me to watch, but it was easier than the animals because that the humans are just faking it. It's all pretend, but you knew with the animals it was real. But overall, as a movie, as a story, the story is interesting. It's a really fascinating story about a guy who, he's went through all this, he's lived through it, and now there's these people who want to publish the whole thing it's just a movie, and they're thinking about money. That's all they're thinking about is profit. And this guy's listen, think about the family of these people. They're going to see all this, you're going to put it in the big screen, they have to relive it, and you're going to upset a lot of people for profit. And he's making this point, he's fighting them on it. And eventually he wins after showing the last couple of footage that they do put together with what happens to the young filmmakers. But there's also some really stupid scenes. For example, whenever the young film crew find a native girl, and they basically decide to rape her. One guy goes in, does whatever, and the girl is with them, is screaming, but she's not screaming about, not screaming like saying this is wrong, stop. She's screaming that don't use up the rest of our film on this. It's like, is that what's more important than this? What the fuck? Then the other guy jumps in, he gets involved, and then it's only until the third guy jumps in, who is her like boyfriend, then she gets upset, starts pulling him off. It's like, yeah, that upset you, huh? It's fucked up. Scenes like that are just like the girl screaming about footage for 5-10 minutes, and then decides to jump in, not even to help the girl, just to stop her boyfriend from cheating. You know, it's fucked up. Then you get the icon. It is iconic. The iconic scene, and even just image of the girl that's impaled with the post, which is iconic. I mean, I've seen it everywhere. I've seen it reimagined in other, like movies or anything, And fun fact, as this movie was coming out, the director, who has stated since he passed away, 2 years ago, stated before that he totally regrets all of the animal abuse, good, and just overall regrets making the movie in general. So there's that. But yeah, when the movie was coming out, he was actually arrested because the authorities thought this movie was a snuff film. And because the production team asked all the actors to stay away for a year to give that sense of realism, that made everyone think, well, they haven't been seen in a while. And it was just footage of them being killed. And you're directing it. So they arrested him, but obviously the actors came out and said, nope, I'm alive, I'm here, don't worry. So he was released, but, there was other court cases, there was bans everywhere. Although, ironically, in Japan, this movie was number 2 in the box office, top grossing movie. Number 2's top grossing movie. That makes more sense. So yeah, I mean, it's a fucked up movie. It is artistic. There are some good scenes. The cinematography is quite good. Some of the acting is good. Some of the acting is a little overacted, but it's 1980. It's expected. But I think this movie would have been way more appreciated and well more deserving of that appreciation if they didn't kill animals in it. Anyone who mentions this movie that knows it, that's the first thing they're going to bring up. Although ironically nobody brings up the fetus being buried. Nobody mentions that. They just quick jump straight to animals. The pig, the turtle. And rightfully so, because they were brutal and totally unnecessary. And as I said, I wish they had just used rubber, like a rubber turtle, or fake animals, and made like material for fake guts and stuff, So overall, I can see why it's a cult following. I mean, this was, whether anyone likes it or not, it's iconic, and it has had a huge impact in the horror genre. Many movies were made after this by different directors trying to recreate something similar to this. Minus the animal cruelty. Although, ironically, nobody ever brings up the fact that there was animal cruelty in the first Friday the 13th movie. Nobody brings that up. There was a snake in the movie, and it was actually killed on camera. A live snake killed on camera in the first Friday the 13th movie. Nobody brings that up. Why? It's the same thing, right? But, so that just shows what a huge impact this particular movie has had on people in that sense. So it's overall it's artistic. It's very well shot. Good cinematography. The acting is good. You know, there's a lot of behind the scenes drama, like the guy who one of the other guys was originally intended and told to shoot the pig. He refused because he travelled with the pig to get there and he sort of bonded with it. So he refused and got the other guy to do it. And because of the squeal of the pig after being shot impacted him so much that he messed his lines up. And he could only afford to do one shot. He couldn't redo it, so he kept messing it up because, you know, that's how much it impacted him. And another guy, after the turtle scene, after they called, you know, cut, after they did whatever they did to the turtle, one of the guys broke down in tears. Proper, like, bawling his eyes out, crying. And one of these guys was so affected after the movie that they ended up going home. They broke up with his girlfriend, and you know, it really impacted the whole crew, all the cast members. The guy who played the tribal member that they kidnapped, the rescue team kidnapped, like, he had to go away because his dad passed away during production, so he had to go to the funeral, so that halted production. And there was just a lot of chaos behind the scenes. You know, there was just, the movie was banned everywhere. Understandably, I mean, Christ, you try doing this type of movie today. You know, no fucking chance. And God, it's crazy. I remember the girl, one of the young filmmakers, the girl in it, she actually didn't want to show her, you know, her breast, and she was taken like outside somewhere, and she was properly shouted at because of it. So she did it. So when you're watching it, you feel icky. You're like, you know, she was forced to expose herself for this movie that she was clearly not comfortable doing. But hey, you said you would do it for the movie, so it's bullshit. Like, but all the animosity aside, if they had used fake animals, if they had pretended they were animals when they weren't animals and killed them, this movie would have been way up there, I think, in everybody's list. But I think that's what holds it down for everybody. And it's not a bad movie. It just has very distasteful decisions that were made. You know. And so, yeah. Would I recommend you watch it? If you're a big animal lover, no. If you're sensitive to like sexual abuse subject in general, no. I think this is only for certain people. You know, certain horror fans, like real diehard horror fans that just don't care about all that, and they can still enjoy it for what it is. You know, it's for them, but there's only a minority of people that are going to be able to sit and actually enjoy this movie. And honestly, that's probably never going to change. But as I said, it does have a cult following. It does. And some people genuinely do appreciate this movie. Like I said, it had some impact on the horror genre. And yeah. So that's my review of Cannibal Holocaust. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching. I wholeheartedly appreciate it, and I appreciate you. And I will be reviewing, is it the Green Inferno? Or something. I can't remember the name on top of my head, but I know it's up there. I've had people asking me to do that. So I will. Also, I want to give a good shout out to my friend Ivo. This movie is very important to him, and he grew up with it, and yeah, he's a very dear friend of mine. I wanted to give a shout out to you. So Ivo, you're awesome. And yeah, so thanks for watching, and as always, don't kill anyone.